It's time now for County-Wide, a presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. You'll hear about the interesting issues and happenings that affect all our lives. Here's today's County-Wide.
Well, good day and welcome to the program. I'm Brad Miller. It is called County-Wide. We're happy to welcome into studio today a first-time guest. Danielle Treiber is with Sonoran Prevention Works. And we say first, good day to you.
Good day.
Happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
You told me your title, and I didn't jot it down, so perhaps you'll repeat it for our listeners today. Your role with Sonoran is?
I'm the Systems Change Associate Program Director.
That's why I didn't write it down.
Yeah.
There's too many words for me.
Too many words.
Let me do this. If by way of introduction, I'll have you kind of introduce yourself and Sonoran Prevention Works, an interesting organization. I saw a presentation that you folks did here just not too long ago at a public event, and found your work to be very interesting. Can you describe for our listeners what it is, Sonoran's approach to helping people who may have addiction issues? Stop me anytime I get this wrong, because your approach is different. Yep. Tell me a little bit how it's different than some of the traditional things we've more familiar with.
Sure, absolutely. So Sonoran Prevention Works is a statewide nonprofit harm reduction organization. And so I think that the harm reduction piece is what's very different than what we experience specifically here in Yavapai County. So harm reduction is it's an approach. It's an evidence-based approach where we meet people where they are. We do not get to decide who they are or what they're doing or whether it's right or wrong.
Right.
We determine that they are the experts in their own care. And so working directly with people who use drugs where they are, meeting them where they are at, is really all about our approach. And our goal at the end of the day is to keep people alive and keep people safe and help them meet the goal that matters to them, not as determined by us.
And you said in a non-judgmental way.
Yes, a non-judgmental way.
And that word judgment gets in the way of so much when we're trying to help people with specifically addiction issues.
Yep.
You have, almost like foot soldiers in a sense. I don't want to over dramatize it, but in a sense you do. You've got people really kind of working on the street, traveling them around in the communities, reaching out to people who need the kind of assistance you provide. You go find them.
Yes, we absolutely do. So we have staff all over the entire state in multiple counties, and we do street-based outreach. So we will go out, find people where they are, and absolutely meet them where they are to get them the supplies that they need, get them naloxone, make sure it's in their hands, make sure we get them connection to care if they want it. But ultimately, we want them to be seen and heard and know that they're cared about. But ultimately, right now, the way that we do it is we have syringe service programs. They're fixed sites. Normally, we partner with different organizations that have the same belief systems, and we set up with them, and we let the entire community know that we are there and we're available to provide them with any of these services.
As you've kind of described it, and as I look at your website and gather some more information, it seems to me that what you folks at Sonoran do is not dramatically different than what we've seen many European countries adapt. Is that fair to say in terms of getting the right help to the right people at the right time in their addiction cycle?
Yes, I think so. I think that what's...
you mentioned needles, and that's what
what
gave me that thought. Right,
exactly. And so they make sure that we get there is an idea of getting sterile needles out. There is an idea of having overdose prevention sites, so consumption sites where people actually can go get their drugs tested, sit and use their drugs, and then make sure that they have doctors around, make sure that they have sterile equipment so that they're not sharing their works, they're not sharing communicable diseases, we don't have this transmission. And ultimately, if something does happen, there's someone there to make sure that they're safe and stay alive.
Right.
And so we see that absolutely across European countries. There are some, New York City has one.
Right.
And we would love to see those here. As far as that is our approach, and getting there it takes a lot longer here in Arizona in particular. We've pushed a lot of laws. So the reason that the layperson can have naloxone in their hands is because of Sonoran Prevention Works. We pushed and worked on that policy.
Right.
But it's taken a long time.
For our listeners, naloxone is what a lot of us would be more familiar with as Narcan.
Right. Naloxone is the overdose reversal drug. So it is the thing everybody should carry. Narcan is that brand name. So it's the nasal spray. So if you think of, Narcan, it's in that box. It's got a little spray. You put it in people's noses. And
right.
Yeah, that's what most people recognize and are more comfortable with.
Right. a lot of what you've kind of described so far, we're only a few minutes kind of into the program, turns on its head what I think a lot of people would consider more traditional treatment of folks with addiction issues.
Right.
Yours is more kind of realistic in the modern age, it seems to me, and should be, if not adapted straightforwardly, like you're kind of pushing for over time, I think, certainly considered in the modern day of how we go about treating addiction issues. And to the degree that the law allows, that's what Sonoran is really kind of aimed at and is doing, right?
That is what we're aimed at. We're aimed at definitely pushing the box and having people recognize that not everybody who uses drugs is someone who has a substance use disorder. Using drugs is a very common part of reality. We always talk to folks when we're doing trainings or just even community conversations. You know, how many people drank a cup of coffee this morning or a couple pots of coffee like I did? I mean, that that itself is a drug.
Caffeine's got a kick.
But we're talking about the difference between highly stigmatized drugs and those that are accepted by community. And that approach, we change the way we view the human themselves, and we make it about the drug as opposed to what that person needs and who they are. And so we don't like the one size fits all. We don't like the blanket approach because that doesn't make any sense for humans who have highly intersectional identities, and they are not the same. And there's no way that we could approach substance use the same. And most of them don't actually have any issue with their substance use. And I think that's a really important part for us to recognize.
What do you mean? It's not into an abusive stage or an addictive stage? I'm not clear on what
I mean, most people who use drugs, even if they are using chaotically, they don't necessarily have are not at a place where they cannot stop using. Most of the time, it's serving a very real function. So if we consider somebody who is unhoused, likely they're using the substances that they are using to meet very real needs that they need in order to survive in their life.
You mean kind of like psychologically?
Potentially psychologically, but there are people who will use, say, methamphetamine to stay awake so that their stuff doesn't get stolen.
Practical use.
Yes.
Okay.
It's very pragmatic, but it meets a real need for them. Like that is, I need to stay safe. I need to stay aware. I need to make sure I can take care of myself. And this is how I'm doing it.
It seems like here in my little corner of Yavapai County, and with as many years as I've got under my belt now and just being attuned to the news like most of us are, it seems like the war on drugs and this issue is an onion that just there are so many layers that we're not even close to getting all those layers peeled off in what it is exactly, who it affects and impacts, and how best to go about treating that. And the take that Sonoran is doing is one that's a little less traditional than what a lot of us are probably used to historically.
I mean, yes, and I think that's just part of the structures and systems in place. I mean, the war on drugs is a war on people, and it's specifically a war on brown and black people. And it has been set up that way, and that's how it's been functioning since it started. And so I think it is incredibly complex and intricate, and I don't think it's that hard to know who it impacts the most.
Well, there's a lot of numbers and data out there that would support what you're kind of saying. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit. We can take a little break here. We need to pause for a moment. When we talk a little bit more about that, I want to talk about the day-to-day of maybe one of the folks you have on the street. I don't know if you have volunteers as what you do, but maybe give me a glimpse inside the day in the life of someone who works at Sonoran Prevention Works. Danielle Treiber is our guest. Again, Sonoran Prevention Works. We'll take a short break. Countywide is back right after this.
Life changes, then it changes again. Predicting the unexpected in life is impossible. That's why it's called unexpected. So when it comes to financial goals, our philosophy is don't predict, prepare. Hi, I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Matthias Sandoval. A job loss, change in health, or a loss of a loved one can have a big impact on your family's financial security. Let's work together to help make sure you're equipped for life's unexpected events. Call our office to schedule a face-to-face appointment.
Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Verde Solaire, your hometown heating, air conditioning, and plumbing company in the Verde Valley. And your trusted North Central Arizona Goodman dealer. Goodman is a name you can trust with the revolutionary Comfort Bridge technology factory installed into select Goodman gas furnaces and air handlers to ensure the entire system operates at peak energy efficient performance. Verde Solar offers free in-home estimates, locally owned and operated since 1983. Visit them at verdesolar.com. Better, cleaner, faster.
Hi, this is Louis Rice with Rice Accounting, Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, with a very sincere thank you for your continued business over the last 20 years. All of us at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service are very honored for the many community awards we've been given over the years. As always, we are open year-round, providing services for taxes, payroll, and bookkeeping. Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, located throughout northern Arizona, can help you with all your tax and accounting needs. For our nearest location, call 800-234-1040.
Let's talk. That's the message from Jonna Randall Murdoch, your local Farm Bureau agent, providing a personal touch when making insurance and financial decisions. Jonna will simplify your insurance needs while offering competitive pricing. Let's talk auto, home, life, and farm. Call Jonna at Farm Bureau today at 928-649-8686. Your Cottonwood Farm Bureau property and casualty insurance company. At Farm Bureau, they insure more than just farms.
We welcome you back to the program. It is Countywide. I'm Brad Miller. Danielle Treiber is our guest today with Sonoran Prevention Works and helping folks with perhaps not even to the point of addiction, but certainly substance use or abuse, and helping people that are maybe literally on the street as we're talking here today, who are not on your radar today, but maybe tomorrow. I wanted to, before we took the break, I wanted to kind of get, because this is a little bit of a different approach, and a lot of our listeners, like myself today, this is going to be something really, really kind of new and different. So can you help me understand what is the day in the life of one of your folks? First, do you use volunteers at the street level and talking directly with people, or how does it kind of go? I
mean, we absolutely have volunteers. Our volunteer program is one of the strongest programs that we have. Our volunteer manager is magnificent and does presentations on how to functionally run a volunteer program and a harm reduction organization. So if you ever need that, they are amazing. And we also have paid staff. So we have paid staff that do this work, and volunteers support them.
Okay. And I want to get right to the kind of street level, someone who may have contact with folks, on the street, and every day you're going to meet somebody new, and in a situation that you don't know exactly how it's going to go. What is their day like?
So I would say that we have two roles that fit that. So we have our syringe service specialists, and then we have our testers. So our syringe service specialists are the ones that actually run our fixed sites. And so those are the ones that partner with different organizations. They'll go typically to their warehouse or their storage unit, kind of depending on where we are in the state, because like I said, we're all over the state.
Right.
They'll grab their supplies for the day, their harm reduction supplies, all their safe use stuff, all their educational materials, etc. They'll go set up at the site. So they'll set up their table and our table cover and all of the things, and just make sure they have everything prepared. And then there will be a certain set time that they are there that is promoted through our website and through that organization itself. And then also through some street outreach. So we'll go out and talk and let people know where we are going to be. And then that specialist will set up for that amount of time. And people who use drugs will show up, or people who use drugs, friends and family will come by. And
I wondered about that.
Yeah, and they will pick up the supplies that they need, or there are people who will come up and be like, I need this many syringes or this many safe smoking kits, etc., because I have people that just can't be here, and I need to make sure that they have them.
Right.
And so our syringe service specialists will ensure that they get the supplies, but also make sure that they get the education around, like, how does this actually support them in staying safe?
Right.
Give them options, have conversations. There are people who show up and say, absolutely, I would like to go into detox or treatment, and we will work to get them to that care. But it's up to them to determine where they want to go. We just help meet the need where they are and make sure they stay safe.
Right.
They all get naloxone. They all get overdose prevention education, so they know how to do that. And most of our sites, if we can have it, we'll have a tester as well. So we'll do HIV and HCV screening, and then we'll link them to care to get them treatment for those. Okay.
And here again, you got to let me play devil's advocate a little bit. Some people are going to say, wait a minute, did she say we're supplying safe needles to people? Mm-hmm. There's going to be people who think you're crazy and you're arming folks to be to reinforce their bad behavior.
Right.
you've done this a long time, and you say that is not how it works because, well, you just kind of laid it out for us.
Yeah.
This is going to happen whether you're there or not.
Yes.
And to provide, if someone has clean fixins, whatever. I've seen too many TV shows.
Yeah.
The works. That's what you said earlier.
Yeah.
The works. That means there's a much less chance that you can spread something, including HIV, to someone else.
Yep.
And that's really what your goal is.
Yep.
It's a practical approach that we're not going to get everybody off of whatever it is they're on today, but we can make it easier and we can open those doors and show them those options. And that's where the education and those kinds of things come in.
Absolutely. I mean, we hear very often, and the argument is people think that we're enabling folks' substance use.
Yeah.
And we recognize the reality that substance use is going to happen, whether we are there or not. And our goal in harm reduction is to reduce the harm of what they are doing. So
Right.
The sterile works is make sure that we're not having that transmission of communicable diseases, but also the movement itself is nothing about us without us. And we know the community at large, the community of people who use drugs take care of each other the best. So if we ensure that they know the education, if they have naloxone in hand, if they have the supplies in hand, they will make sure that each one of them stay alive, stay safe, have what they need. And so that's really the ultimate goal with this. And yes, we know.
You can kind of parse this down so many different ways. It's just kind of running through my mind right now. You think, okay, safe needle exchange. So we don't have one needle that's dirty getting used by someone else. But it also, think about if there are mothers who use and are better able to take care of their children. Yeah, you're rolling your eyes because you've seen this. You know where I'm going. Who can perhaps potentially take care of their kids in a better way because of some of the street business they don't have to worry about. And I'm assuming every bit of it you put right on top of when you're doing the needle thing, you're having those conversations, the education element is right there alongside.
Yes.
So one really is going to be holding the hand of the other.
Yes.
Is that right?
That is right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There's going to be some listeners, Danielle, you know it as well as I do, that are just like, this is just a wrong kind of thing to do. In the community at large, does anyone ever show up to protest when you set up? Or do you ever get that kind of negative feedback? And can education, like what we're doing right now, help with that, do you think?
I mean, it happens to us all the time.
Yeah.
We have people that will show up. We have different communities, organizations, first responders, police officers, et cetera, that will show up to our sites and bother our participants, will tell us we can't be there. I mean, there's a lot of engagement that we get because they don't think what we're doing is right. And I think education is helpful, absolutely. So getting the, in-depth education, we have a harm reduction certification, 16 hours long, that we go into all of the evidence, all of the research, and also it is about addressing our internal biases. It's about addressing our core toxic beliefs or just belief systems in general, because at the end of the day, these are people. And we want you to see them as people and not the pain necessarily that you experienced or that you have been taught in our society and in our structures around how you've been educated on substances.
Right.
And so the education is really important, but really it's meeting at a human level and recognizing the dignity of every single person around
Well,
us.
that's how you came to my personal attention, was at a public forum, and you spoke, and I was like, wow, I didn't know this existed at all, let alone available to people in northern Arizona.
Right.
And you know exactly what it is that you do. So you're a guest and you're explaining it here today. So it was greeted very warmly in the forum that you and I first connected. So it just kind of depends on your perspective and like you said, where you are in your education on how to kind of go after these matters. One thing I've got to check in, because all we hear these days is fentanyl.
Yep.
Is that misplaced again at the street level where you work? Is it a real threat? It's a huge topic. We've got 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So I understand that. But are you seeing that and our folks, is that the kind of thing that Sonoran can address?
Well, so, I mean, fentanyl is very, very real. I mean, it is there. It is a prominent substance that is available. I mean, heroin is really non-existent anymore. And it's because fentanyl. And it's because fentanyl is easier to make. I mean, when it comes down to it, it's because of prohibition and the criminalization of people who use drugs and the drugs themselves. So when we start to schedule substances, what happens is we get more intense substances that come out of that, because now we have to create something faster, more accessible, easier to get out, because now we're focusing on that substance and the scheduling of it and, arresting those folks. And so that's how fentanyl and fentanyl analogs came up. But it also, people use fentanyl on purpose, right? It is not just this accidental thing that's just going to show up.
Right.
But we do have fentanyl test strips, which are legal in Arizona, thanks to Sonoran prevention work. So people can test their drugs and see that it's there. But we do assume that fentanyl is in everything.
Right.
It is not.
Terrible.
It's just a thing to pay attention to. But also there's a lot of misinformation that gets shared around fentanyl.
It seems like huge. I've seen so much just with my own reading.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, gosh, you hear one thing and then you hear the absolute contradiction the next day. And you don't know where to go, other than it's just got everybody terrified.
It's got everybody, and that's part of the point, right?
Yeah.
The fear mongering around it and using the kind of media to perpetuate that. So drugs are scary, don't use them. People who use them are scary. And so it kind of tries to push everybody to get to them to say no. But really what it does, it just drives people underground. So we see more overdoses. So you see this increase in our overdose rates, and it's because people are hiding and using alone when opioid, overdoses are completely preventable.
Wow. Oh, this is such a big topic.
Yeah, I know.
Our 20 minutes. I mean, we could do a show every day probably for a month and just begin to kind of scratch the surface. But I appreciate that Sonoran Prevention Works is out there doing that kind of thing every bit as much as I appreciate that law enforcement is out doing their end. I wish the two mindsets could get a little bit closer, but through programs like this, perhaps that will happen. We need to take just a short break. When we come back, we'll wrap up. If anybody wants to get in touch with you or Sonoran, I want them to know how to do it. So let's share that information when we come back to Countywide right after this.
Life changes, then it changes again. Predicting the unexpected in life is impossible. That's why it's called unexpected. So when it comes to financial goals, our philosophy is don't predict, prepare. Hi, I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Matthias Sandoval. A job loss, change in health, or a loss of a loved one can have a big impact on your family's financial security. Let's work together to help make sure you're equipped for life's unexpected events. Call our office to schedule a face-to-face appointment.
Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Verde Solaire, your hometown heating, air conditioning, and plumbing company in the Verde Valley, and your trusted North Central Arizona Goodman dealer. Goodman is a name you can trust with the revolutionary Comfort Bridge technology, factory installed into select Goodman gas furnaces and air handlers to ensure the entire system operates at peak energy efficient performance. Verde Solaire offers free in-home estimates, locally owned and operated since 1983. Visit them at verdesolaire.com. Better, cleaner, faster.
Hi, this is Lewis Rice with Rice Accounting Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, with a very sincere thank you for your continued business over the last 20 years. All of us at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service are very honored for the many community awards we've been given over the years. As always, we are open year-round, providing services for taxes, payroll, and bookkeeping. Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, located throughout northern Arizona, can help you with all your tax and accounting needs. For our nearest location, call 800-234-1040.
Let's talk. That's the message from Jonna Randall Murdoch, your local Farm Bureau agent, providing a personal touch when making insurance and financial decisions. Jonna will simplify your insurance needs while offering competitive pricing. Let's talk auto, home, life, and farm. Call Jonna at Farm Bureau today at 928-649-8686. Your Cottonwood Farm Bureau property and casualty insurance company. At Farm Bureau, they insure more than just farms.
Welcome back to the program. And just a scant moment or two, our conversation has been so interesting today with Danielle Treiber, Sonoran Prevention Works. And Danielle, if anybody is listening today that would like to know more, either for themselves, a family member, perhaps to become a volunteer, to pledge resources, I'm sure as a nonprofit, your organization is always interested in hearing from those folks. What's the best way to get a hold of Sonoran?
The best way to do that is to go to our website, spwaz.org. It has our outreach calendar. So any of our fixed sites where we need to get supplies, naloxone, are all listed there, where we are, those times. And yes, it has volunteers. It has all of our trainings listed on there.
Okay.
And any way you can get in touch.
Everything. Say it again for me.
spwaz.org.
.org. Okay, terrific. All right, with Sonoran Prevention Works, Danielle Treiber, our guest. It's countywide, and we'll see you next time.
This has been Countywide. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday at this time. If you have a topic or guest idea that you'd like to suggest, email us, news@myradioplace.com.